What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart as it, of course, sits up here in the $116,000 new all-time highs in this past week. We'll also peek over there at the XRP price chart as, of course, it's struggling here at the last retracement level, the 786 at just a little bit over $3. We're also looking over here at the total market cap of the cryptocurrency market, along with what's going on out there in macro. As it does appear, Bitcoin has started its backtest here in the last 24 hours, which was speculated on in each of my last videos, along with the newsletter that was just published this morning. The big breakout, Bitcoin expands and altcoin breadth opens, shifting into a new phase, expansions, parabolas, and top signals with a 22-minute audio voiceover recording. As I do believe that what we are just seeing is nothing more than that, just simply a backtest of a legitimate breakout that came here for Bitcoin, as we've started to see a new phase start to emerge here in the crypto market, as there is broader participation in this rally rather than just being isolated into Bitcoin, but we're actually seeing altcoins start to move. And my belief is that once we get into parabola building over here for Bitcoin, that is going to be where we see the epic euphoria happening throughout the cryptocurrency market, including XRP, including the altcoins, all the euphoria, all the mania, all the this time is different, laser eyes, diamond hands, all that good stuff. But we've just got to squeak out this backtest here really quick. So in the coming days and potentially couple weeks, that'll be kind of the theme of what's going on in here, waiting for this thing to wrap itself up and then enter into parabola building. I've started thinking to myself a lot about, what would happen in those events? What would things be like? How crazy would they be? How easy it would be to get caught up in the narratives, get caught up into the euphoria, the storytelling of this time is different, laser eyes, diamond hands, all that type of stuff. And it's been a long time since we've experienced that type of thing. And in the crypto market, we typically experience that for very short periods of time. They usually last for 30 days, 45 days. And then, we spend 90% of our time in the epic trolls of Twitter running the show. But I'm doing a lot of mental preparation right now, getting ready, anticipating narratives are probably going to change. Things are going to get exciting. There's going to be reasons why, even though prices are already in parabolas, they're going to keep going because of this. How dumb are you? But that's typically what you need for the crowd to come in, to buy the peak of a euphoric bubble, is that there usually is some type of narrative. There's some type of reason why it's so obvious that you have to buy it. And that's usually some type of story. Right now, we still don't have that, which is crazy to me, but I think it will come. Whether it's that the Fed does a surprise rate cut there at the end of this month on July 30th, or if they go ahead and do one in September and the market ramps up anticipating a narrative of saying the cutting cycle is beginning. I don't really know what the narrative will be for the whole market to get a parabola happening like that, but I do anticipate one will come. And like I keep mentioning, I think when it does happen, it will be very fast. It'll catch a lot of people by surprise. It'll be very difficult for people to switch from a patience mentality to a action mentality. And for things like XRP working back here through these retracement levels in here, I really think back to it's a long time, so it's not going to be a lot of the viewers here on the channel, but back in 2020 when we were dealing with all that, the 22.5 cent crew of just how we worked these things out. And that's just what we've been doing in here to then go on and hit our lows, all this stuff happening in here to then go into the long waddle. And then now here we are back at the retraces. And then, when things got out of here, they happened very quickly. And I could imagine things happening very quickly in here as well. For me right now, it's a lot of mental preparation of all right, if this environment returns, reflect back on your experience, think about how fast things happen, what the crowd is like, the euphoria is like, the excitement's like, and what are those things that you're looking for to signal a top could be happening when that's coming, right? And so one of those additional confluence factors that I think I see here really on XRP anticipating an event like that happening as well is not just what we're talking about on Bitcoin, hey, we got to get this last correction and go for the peak. We've known it. I've shown it here in several videos recently that XRP creates parabolas in two different types of environments. It happens when Bitcoin is expanding into new all-time highs after a multi-year bear market, or when it's producing a top. We already saw the first run up for XRP happen as Bitcoin was expanding expanding above the 2021 high here, breaking into the 70s and 80,000s. That's, of course, where XRP has its big run. So where would you look for the next one to happen? Well, you would look for it if Bitcoin is producing a top. But what's interesting as well is like the confluence of the event of it actually trying to break out in here is that if the total market cap of crypto goes into expansion, do you think it's going to happen at the same time? And my bet is that's what it's waiting on. It's going to get expanded out of here, and that's going to happen at the exact same time. Meanwhile, the Bitcoin dominance will finally take its big fat plunge throughout here, and we'll see what we normally see, where it ends up collapsing as we're producing the peak of Bitcoin. You know, the things that are interesting, of course, is just what we're seeing over there in macro markets at the exact same time. I've got two fibs on here. I've got one of the bigger range from the peak of 2021 to the bottom here of 2023. And then I've got another fib here from what we saw from late November here until, of course, the tariff crash there in April. And of course, it's battling through both of those 702 Fibonacci retracement levels, whether you're looking at it on the bigger time frame getting out or the shorter time frame getting out. It's not ironic to me that we're doing that and breaking these kind of major levels happening in here for the Russell. And that's when we're also seeing all this action happening here for crypto. So I do think eventually we're going to see this thing go up in here, but I'm also thinking it's probably going to end up being a trick happening in here. It's probably not going to get too high. And that would likely be when we're seeing this happening in here. So I know I'm jumping around all over the place, but I see a lot of things that I want to see, right? Like I want to see the Russell 2000 breaking through key levels. I want to see Bitcoin doing something familiar to me that would imply that we could be going into a parabolic peak, which is what I see happening in here. And of course, I want to see corrective and recovery structures for XRP that look familiar to me on what you've done after a completed correction is done. And then you're back up in here fighting around in here, whether it's got to pull down and bounce around in here first too. And it's kind of waiting for that trigger for the whole market to happen. It's just in general an exciting time when like you look out like the next month. 2 months. Short term, it's like, there's some stalling out in here, but that's typical after you have a major breakout happen. But it's like pretty exciting when you look out a little bit further than that, right? And so I'm doing a lot of, mental gymnastics on like, how are you going to handle this? Getting your cold storage devices together, your exchanges together, all that different type of stuff right now. So right now, I think we're just doing a little bit of a back test in here for Bitcoin, like we've of course shown here in the past videos, for some form of an ABC correction to come in here. And it appears that that is in motion, and it's just a little bit of a patience game right now as we await for the parabola to start getting built. And I think once that parabola gets built, that's where you're going to see this thing actually break out of here and go along with the total market cap of crypto. So an exciting time, not surprising to see some type of corrective behavior show up here on Bitcoin based on the things that we've been talking about. We are in a new phase of the market. The entire correction is over. The ABC is over. The breakout is over. It's now in backtest parabola building mode. And so I do think that the clock is ticking for things to get really exciting in here, whether that's today or later this week or in 2 weeks. I do think it's coming. There will be a lot of debate in an environment like that if we do get it on whether or not this is just another leg in a bull market or if this is actually going to end up being the peak. So when we're in that environment, of course, you'll probably hear different things from me, right? So like when we go through periods like this, you just kind of get continued case building of why it's going to go bullish and things like that, right? And you just kind of hammer that in while the crowd is really in despondence and depression. But then, which is kind of the opposite of the crowd, right? And then like when you go into the parabolic pushes and you start producing like, all right, here's the evidence, here's the things that are saying whether or not this is actually just an expansionary leg in a bull market or if this is actually going to end up being a peak. The crowd typically fights against that, right? So, I'll present that case. The crowd will probably be mad at it, but that's okay. That's just how it goes. But the things we'll be watching for, of course, if we get our big breakout in here, we'll then start looking, are we seeing typical evidence of what happens that we're nearing a top of a market cycle? And that will be what that phase is about, right? So we've left the phase of being in this 8-month correction with Bitcoin, this 2-month ABC that we've been in. We've gotten into expansion. Now we're shifting into trying to produce a parabola. That's now our new phase of the market. And what we'll be looking for is evidence to say, is this the top of the market or is this just an expansion in the market? My hunch is it's going to be the top, but go throughout all of the history of the cryptocurrency market. And when does the altcoin market perform the best? It's when the top is being built. So all those parabolas, all those big green candles that you look for, They typically show up at the top. My guess is that's where we're headed. We're heading to the top, and that's when all the excitement happens in the altcoins. So for me, it's just kind of preparing for that moment, recognizing that this is probably the last period of calmness that we see in the market before things get really volatile, and doing the mental preparations for, what I plan on doing in that. So very exciting, a little bit of patience, but I think we'll get there. So I'll check in with you guys tomorrow in Markets in the Morning. We'll look at all of it live like we typically do on Wednesdays. In the meantime, of course, you can check out the newsletter that I just published this morning over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. The big breakout, Bitcoin expands and altcoin breadth opens, shifting into a new phase, expansions, parabolas, and top signals. I, of course, record all of these after I write them. This is a 22-minute audio recording. There's a link down here in the description of this video to blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, guys, I will catch you all tomorrow. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.